Are you ready to transform your normal e-commerce business into one that experiences exponential growth year after year using online advertising? If so, this show is for you. Me and my guests will show you how you too can grow your e-commerce business to 7 or even 8 figures so you can go on more luxurious vacations, spoil yourself and your family, say yes to more opportunities, and become financially free so you never have to worry about money again. Welcome to the E-commerce Performance Marketing Show. Hey, how's it going, guys? Josh Marsden here, host of the E-commerce Performance Marketing Show. Now, I have Kevin Hill here. Now, Kevin is one of the best, if not the best, copywriters on the planet, literally. He has been a professional copywriter for the last 14 years. He's been hired by guys like Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy, Clayton Makepeace, Agora Financial, and many other industry leaders. So these industry leaders turn to Kevin for help with copywriting. So he knows a thing or two when it comes to creating copywriting that converts. His passion lies in not only creating high converting marketing campaigns, but also teaching copywriters and marketers how they can increase their skills and create their own profit windfalls. Recently, he's been invited to help in-house marketing teams create more compelling copy so they can attract more customers and boost lifetime customer value. He lives in Boise, Idaho with his wife, Tina Marie, and their 2 cats. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you, man. I'd love for us just to dive in, maybe just go through your story on how you got started in copywriting and the internet marketing world. And, this way the audience can get to know you a little bit.
Cool. So I got started copywriting about in 2005. I was originally getting a master's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. And so I did the whole career change thing, and I just got tired of, because I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps and be a professor. But like middle grad school, I had to teach a couple of microbiology labs, and I wasn't really interested in like instilling knowledge into young minds in the college age. And so I decided, I kind of want to do something else. And so make a long story short, I decided to get a master's degree. I was in a PhD program, so I had to get a master's degree. And then I discovered copywriting, and I really loved it. I was always a good writer, like in college and high school and grad school. And I felt like it was something I could learn and be good at. And so I basically, started my own copywriting business after I graduated from with my master's degree, and worked at Fort Detrick doing biodefense research for the government while I was building up my business. And so Russell Brunson, 2006, he posted in a copywriting forum. He said, "Hey, I'm looking for an in-house copywriter to come in and help write my copy." And I felt like this was a good opportunity. And so I replied, and within a week, he flew me to Boise to interview. And I ended up moving from Maryland to Boise, Idaho, which is where I am now. So it was pretty cool. And so I worked for Russell for 6 years as his in-house copywriter. I learned a heck of a lot as far as marketing and copywriting and that sort of thing. And then after that, I became a freelancer. Been freelancing ever since then, from 2011 to 2020 now. Kind of crazy. 2020, new decade, right? And so from 2012 to 2015, I was one of the copywriters for GKIC, which is Dan Kennedy's company. And then now I just kind of freelance back and forth. Right now I have a couple of clients on retainer. And it's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. How did you microbiology to copywriting? It's a big switch, it seems like. I know there's lots of writing involved.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going through your master's program, and if you continue through your PhD, I'm sure there'd be even more writing involved. But how did that transition? How did that happen?
Yeah. First, I was always a good writer. And as I kind of dove into learning how to write copy, I basically discovered that a lot of good copy involves research. And so, I think there's a quote from Gary Halbert somewhere that said that, 90% of copy involves research, which is true. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm been in school doing microbiology research my entire life, and we've written a lot of papers, and I know how to do research. It's just a matter of kind of taking those research skills and applying it to advertising and copywriting. And so and that's what kind of made it a pretty easy transition for me. Like, not only was it, not to brag or anything, but not only was I a decent writer, but I know how to do the research. And so I know a lot of people are like, gosh, that was kind of quite a jump there. But for me, it was, there were a lot of skills there that kind of, especially the research skills that I can transfer to what I'm doing now. So.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. I mean, you're doing lots of research, I'm assuming, in microbiology. And I know from my own master's experience that you're doing a lot of research, writing essays and papers. And so that's a pretty smooth transition, to copywriting, because like you said, copywriting, most of what goes into that is the research aspect. So this way you can really understand the market, understand what message is going to really resonate, and then test a message. But I'll let you speak to that because you're the expert there. But so how did you get into e-commerce, and what has been some of your experiences with e-commerce?
Well, I've written for like tons of different companies, like like I mentioned, Clayton Makepeace, Dan Kennedy, and it's like and also Russell as well, and most of what I do is I try to like get kind of what was his name? Claude Hopkins said to enter the conversation that's already in the customer's mind. And so my job is to study the product, study the the benefits and that sort of thing, and to let the customer know that, hey, this is how this product or service can benefit you, to make your life better. And so it's basically for the past 13 years, different clients, and thankfully I haven't had to market myself a whole lot. It's like, it just goes from, I get a lot of referrals. People are like, oh, Kevin's an awesome copywriter. And, it just kind of goes from there. So, so my biggest, I think your question was my biggest, like,
what was like one of your successes, like the days that you can really like maybe teach a few points on that the audience would get a lot of value out of?
Yeah, sure. So, this is where I usually be like, oh, this is where I wrote copy that made millions of dollars and all this sort of thing. But one of my latest big success was, so one of my clients is in the coaching industry. And so he has a 7-figure coaching industry. And so he sold a product, like affiliate product, about 6 months ago. One of the bonuses he offered for buying the product was that he would promote them due to his list, and like 5,000 people or so. I mean, his list was like, huge, but a segment of his list. And so literally, and so we had to, because we had a bunch of launches going on at the same time, there's one going on now. We only had like 3 or 4 days to do this. And so literally like the day before, I get all the copy from these people. There's like 5 people who bought the product and was going to be promoted by this guy. And I got like the day before. And it was just horrible. Like, it was like, it wasn't written in the customer's voice or the guy's voice. And so I had to like get up and kind of rehash everything, these emails, so that they would work for, his name is Christian Michelson. That's the, one of the people I'm writing copy for. And so I had to like take this rough draft or whatever and make it to turn into Christian's voice. And so, and it ended up working. Like, these people never got sales before in their entire lives. They're in his mastermind, they're learning a lot, but they got sales, they got results, and they were pretty happy. And so, reason that's not like I've had tons of like, oh, I wrote this campaign and it created a lot of money and that sort of thing. But I tell that story, and that was because it's my latest success, and it's not the typical success, because it's really it's a good story that talks about the importance of writing in the voice of the prospect. And because these people, they were Christian's customers, they knew Christian was, but they've never like didn't know Christian's audience, what would resonate with them. And so after working with him for a while, I kind of knew that, and knew how to write in his voice that would resonate for his customers so that they would get sales. And so, yeah, that was something that, and plus I had to do it in like one day. It was like, okay, we got to launch these emails the next day. And so that was a big success for me. It wasn't like, and I've had, like I said, I've had tons of, I created this product launch and it made like 7 figures and all that. But, that's just not just helping these people out, but also, taking something that was kind of rough form and turning it into something that would convert. Was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. When it comes to doing research, as you're about to get in the weeds, so to speak, and put the work in and write copy, what are some steps you take that you recommend the audience takes when they're trying to create, compelling ads or sales pages or emails that are going to do well for their e-commerce businesses? Sure.
The first thing that I would do is to really get to know your competition. A lot of people are really horrible at who's selling what in their market. Get to know your competition. I recommend doing something as simple as just creating a list of competitors, and then just kind of studying okay, how are they different from yours? How are they, what they do differently, what they do similarly. That way that you can kind of position your product kind of above the competition. There's a lot of, I work with a lot of people who they hire me and they're like, they just have this generic product, and I'm like, no, we gotta get some kind of a USP or some kind of something unique about this. And so that's part of the research, is finding out why people. The important question is why people would do business with you versus anyone else. That's the thing that you have to answer. A lot of my clients, they know it. Some people don't, and it's kind of my job to kind of work that out. So that's the biggest thing. And the other thing is that I do. So part of my experience is in working for financial copywriting, which is like really, really ultra competitive. And so with financial copywriting, it's something that you guys can kind of be applicable to your business as well. And for your customers, is coming up with like a big idea or like a unique mechanism of some sort. Something that kind of makes your product stand out. It could be like an ingredient in a supplement or something like that that's unique, that you can kind of build upon. For just the kind of a health example. And so like that, or if you have like a case study, like a really crazy case study, a really crazy story. Stories are, you guys know this, but stories are just important in marketing. And so another thing you can do for research is to, if you have an existing customer base, to get case studies. Kind of, the people I work with, they're really bad at getting case studies and testimonials. And so I was working with Christian, and we were digging in to get some good case studies we can use for a launch. And we discovered this guy who he made he got his first client for like $30,000 or something like that. And so we kind of put that front and center in one of our promo emails. And it's something that if we didn't do the legwork to kind of, get these testimonials and kind of ask our audience, okay, who got results for this product, we would have never known. So yeah, those are some points there as far as how to kind of research for your product or service. So yeah. And I know you mentioned USP, which is a universal selling proposition. Some people might not know what that is. Big idea, which is similar to USP, is just a more friendlier term for it. I know Todd Brown uses that quite a bit. I love Todd. When it comes to creating a big idea, I mean, is there maybe a strategy or process that you go through to create that for one of your clients? Yeah, the first thing that I do is I try to get people to, sometimes they have this in place, sometimes they don't, but I try to get them to create a unique mechanism for getting a result. So most of my experience is in information marketing. which is kind of cool because you can kind of, take for example, you can take a system on how to sell real estate, right? And you can break it down to like 4 or 5 steps, and you got to do a lot in those 4 or 5 steps, but they're 4 or 5 steps, and then you can then kind of pick out like something unique about that system that other people are doing, and then kind of like a lot of times we can kind of give it a cool name so that it kind of makes it stand out a little bit. And also, if so, that's one way, is like to create like a unique mechanism, right? And then the other way is to do research. Like there was a on like your product being used, or a similar product being used in like in the media, or like a news story that's similar to your product, and you can say, this system is similar to X celebrity who was able to use this to lose weight or something like that. Well, weight loss probably isn't the best example, but you can kind of piggyback on like current events, current news, that sort of thing. That's why it's another big thing for research, is to keep track of what is going on in your market and check the news regularly. Because I'm a big believer. I'm not a big believer in like, oh, you got to like drown yourself in whatnot 24/7 news every day. But just go on CNN or Fox and just scan the headlines, get an idea of what's going on, and then you can kind of find something that you can piggyback on. So
just follow, basically be able to ride the wave of a trend or a news headline that's happening, right? And then somehow link it up to your product if there's relevancy there.
Right, exactly. Right. And especially like, so one of the things that I do is for Christian, I run weekly marketing labs for his mastermind students. And one of the things I told them with a lot of their stuff was, hey, it's the new year, right? Really harp on that. People are shooting for a fresh start, New Year's, people making New Year's resolutions, really jump on that for their marketing. And so holidays is another thing you guys can, it's possible to kind of piggyback on as well.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, totally. Well, you've got obviously tremendous experience, going all the way back to 2006. I feel like 2006 was almost like yesterday, but anyway, just funny how time flies. That's a side note.
That is true. That's true.
It is true. So what's been your biggest success, and we're talking numbers wise, because I just want the audience to like hear that from you, and even hear a little bit of the story behind it, on how that result came to be, what went into, getting that result, and, what were some of the challenges that you encountered before you actually hit that result as well? Yeah,
I guess the biggest result was a couple of years ago, I helped one of my clients launch a kind of a brand new business, really. It's basically a marketing and training business, kind of like a guru type business. And so we, the first goal was to, get people to an event and also launch a high-end course. But the biggest priority was the event, because that's kind of where the high ticket selling was going to take place. And so he had kind of a small list. It was like 5,000 people or so. And but he had a good relationship with his list. And so we created a campaign that it wasn't just, emails. Like a lot of people just send out emails and that sort of thing. But we also did direct mail as well, which might be sacrilege talking about on a e-com show. I don't know. But so we did direct mail as well. And so we ended up filling up, like 45, 50 people to the event. And the sales for the event per head was like $3,000 per head. When you consider total sales, like most of the event stuff I did for GKIC, GKIC was happy to get like $800,000 per head in sales, but we did like 3,000 in sales, which was pretty cool. And the biggest thing that really helped us out, and we kind of did a post-mortem afterwards, what worked well was it was basically like we did like multi-step follow-up or multi-step marketing. It wasn't just emails. We did the text messages. We did voicemails as well. And so, because I know a lot of people like emails, like, you know, the thing people do. But the biggest thing, we also did, you know, like I said, we did the direct mail too. That also kind of cut through the clutter a little bit. So yeah, it was like we went from, and then obviously from there, you know, he sold masterminds, he sold high ticket products, and then it basically kind of launched a business. So
yeah. And now with that first initial domino and that momentum that you helped him get early on, like what would you say his business is worth today?
It's definitely a 7-figure business. I mean, it started from scratch, really. And of course, he had the advantage of having like an existing list. He's spoken all over, you know, as an expert all over the country and over the world. So he kind of had that star power, but he never really got into like doing seminars and doing like information products. It was just, you know, speaking. So, you know, he had kind of a head start in that, you know, he already had like the star power and all that, but we were able to kind of leverage that into a definitely a 7-figure business. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Nice work. I mean, so what are like 3 strategies or tactics that you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience? You know, this obviously leading up to this interview, I'm always asking, you know, guests to share like 3 solid strategies or tactics that the audience can like take and they can use in their e-commerce businesses to get better results in their marketing. So, you know, what are some of those strategies or tactics that you'd like to share today?
Absolutely. So one thing I want to share, and we kind of talked about the multi-channel marketing aspect of, you know, being more omnipresent in your market. And that's kind of what allowed us to kind of launch that seminar business. If you want, I can share some. I have some slides prepared. I can share. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen real quick here. Okay, so can you see that, Josh?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm a big believer in like multi-channel marketing. A lot of people just focus on emails. You know, that's like the cool thing. But I believe that mostly because I used to write copy for Dan Kennedy, and he kind of pounded that in my head. And that's what kind of drove the success for the start of the seminar, this event business that I talked about is, you know, we didn't just send out emails. We did social media. We did text messages, newsletters, direct mail. And I know it's direct mail. We don't talk about direct mail, you know, but I just believe direct mail is so cool because, and the best part is that you don't even have to create anything new. You just take what you have and like, you know, put in a letter or put in the postcard. Like you don't even have to like, just repurpose what you have. And so I guess my first tactic is not really a tactic, but kind of like an overarching, like, you know, strategy or whatever, is to use, or theory is to use multi-channel marketing. You know, don't just limit yourself to emails, you know, play around. Maybe you could play around with text messages or sort of thing. But I think most people just focus on email to market their business.
True. Especially e-commerce businesses.
Exactly.
You know, they limit themselves. You know, they don't take advantage of everything they have to offer typically, just because a lot of e-commerce business owners are fairly new to e-commerce. Those are a little bit more experienced. Even then, even the ones that are somewhat experienced don't really leverage all the modalities that we're talking about here. You know, definitely email, obviously, but, you know, SMS text messaging is pretty rare. You know, having an actual like consistent email marketing strategy that utilizes newsletters, you know, that's this, I would say the experienced, sophisticated, you know, e-commerce business owners, they do that, but otherwise most e-commerce business owners don't. You know, they're just very limited. They always focus on the front end. They don't focus on everything in their business to really follow up with, you know, their list, follow up with their customers, and using multi-channel marketing. So I'm glad that you're bringing this up.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, like you said, some people do it, more sophisticated people do it, but you know, just for someone who's starting out, I mean, you can start sending out. I mean, I used to send out, just print out 200 letters and get a roll of stamps and just send out letters to potential clients. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get the stuff going, but yeah, but definitely, multi-channel marketing, multi-step marketing, which I'll cover next. And that's my first strategy.
Well, before we move on to multi-step,
yeah,
so maybe we could tell the audience here. I mean, I know some of this stuff, but I just want to ask you this way it comes fresh and they can really take it in instead of just hearing us just spit it out. Mm-hmm. What are the open rates, click-through rates, of each of these modalities? This way the audience can really see statistically why it's so beneficial to have, multi-channels in your marketing to be able to get the most results possible.
Yeah. Well, email is, depending on, the client I work with. I mean, I'm of the belief that, people are just getting bombarded by emails, and it's getting kind of low click-through rates, depending on the list and that sort of thing. My biggest client, they get like a 8 or 9% click-through rate, which I think is below average. You can get up to like 15, 20% depending on the list and that sort of thing. But yeah, in general, at least in my experience, and of course, the bigger the list, the lower it's going to be because there's like more people on the list that aren't very active and that sort of thing. And we recently had to, because of really bad delivery rates, we had to remove a lot of people who weren't very engaged in order to improve our rates.
List hygiene.
So email, you gotta and plus you gotta go through like spam filters, and it's easily get lost in the clutter because there's people just sending out emails like crazy. Social media, that's something that another client of mine, she runs Facebook groups, and that's kind of her thing, is teaching people how to use Facebook groups, and she has her own Facebook group. So she told me that she basically uses that. That's like her main thing, because people are on Facebook all the time. I think there was a stat that there's like 2.4 billion people on Facebook right now. Mm-hmm. And so having a Facebook group is a way to kind of, step away from email and get after the people that are on social media. So as far as like open rates and that sort of thing, I don't know if that's trackable, but it's like, it's a really good way to get those people that are already on Facebook in your market. And text messages and newsletters. Text messages are, I read a stat that 95% of people will open up text message or something like that. Something crazy, right?
Yeah.
And why not use that in your marketing?
Totally.
Which is way better than like the 10-15% you'll get through email. And of course, my favorite, newsletter and direct mail, that's like a 100% open rate. unless it gets filtered out as junk mail or something like that. That's why, and then that's a whole nother story is when you send direct mail, you want to make sure that it stands out. I mean, I've sent some weird stuff like lumpy mail that has like pencils and shredded money and that sort of thing. So,
wow.
So yeah, it's some weird, crazy stuff. So,
hey, whatever it takes to get them to pay attention to it, and to see it so it sticks out of all the mail that they get. Because when I check my mail, which is maybe once every week or two,
same here.
I literally stay there in the mailroom and I go through all my mail and I throw away everything that is like junk and trash, and I'm trying to throw away as much as possible. And I keep only the ones that are important, And so it's with direct mail, it's so important that it sticks out because, you want that recipient to keep it. This way they open it and obviously, pay attention to what's being said in the letter itself. Exactly.
So yeah, it's, if you do direct mail, you got to stand out. And I've used really huge, oversized postcards. You can get postcards that are like 8 by 12 inches, kind of like the size of a piece of paper, really. And also like different color postcards, like goldenrod color. That's like the ugliest color. Like it's like they just stand out in the mailbox. So, but and also it's like a lot of people kind of shy away from direct mail because they think it's like, oh, I gotta, every mailing house wants me to buy like 5,000 pieces at least, or send it out. There are a couple that they'll work with you as far as if you want to send out 200 pieces, they'll work with you. So
yeah, nice, man. Well, cool. I know you were going to talk about multi-path marketing.
Yes. So I want to share with you guys the ultimate nurture sequence. So this is something that I've been doing for a lot of clients. Another client of mine who's in the real estate industry. And so a lot of people, I guess, depending on who you learn from, they teach you that, okay, well, once someone opts in, then you send them like one or two like emails, kind of like an indoctrination sequence, and then you start kind of pitching them a little bit with occasional content. And so it's my belief that we're going to kind of get to the point where, we're just bombarded by emails, and just, the competition is getting higher too. So we have to do a little more to kind of connect with our customer a little bit, kind of bond with them, so that we kind of stand out amidst everybody else who's just, who's just like, just as soon as you opt in, it's like, okay, sign up for my thing or whatever, buy my product. So this is something that I've been implementing for a client in my real estate niche. He came along. He's like, he did the usual thing, which is drive Facebook ads to a strategy session. But he found out that a lot of people he was talking to are like kind of looky-loos, or they weren't really ready. And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to kind of warm them up a little bit before he kind of pitched his product. And so basically, and you guys can read it, but basically it's a mixture of giving away good content, something cool, like a cool, like ninja giveaway, like a checklist, or he gives away a scorecard, which is kind of a little thing you kind of go through, like a little quiz, it's a little kind of interactive. Also a mixture of transformation stories from customers show that, with the type of transformation that you provide. Also, email that drives to a podcast, kind of like this one, or some kind of external content showing that, you are an authority, someone else has published you. I also, another thing you could do is send an email, like if you've spoken on stage before, you speaking on stage to show authority. So basically it's a mixture of giving away content to kind of show your expertise, and also any kind of like authority builders, like, okay, you've written a book, or you've spoken on stage. And also a mixture of I guess, case studies as well. Yep. And then you'll notice, like at the end, we don't even like pitch the actual product, or in this case, it's a discovery call, until like the 10th or 12th email. Because our whole goal is to like, get people to kind of connect with us, to bond with us, and to, prove our authority, and to prove that, kind of stand out a little bit amongst someone who's like, a competitor who's just like, getting people to sign up right away. Yep. It's kind of like you're dating somebody, right? You ask them out, but you don't ask them to marry you on the second or third date. There's like a relationship, got to build up the relationship a little bit. Totally. So that's something that, this is something that's been working really well. And what really makes this work even better is when you do the direct mail. Occasionally what we'll do is we'll send out, between the third or fourth email, we'll send out a direct mail piece that basically gives away like a cool, like a piece of content or something like that. Yeah. So the other option is to like use this and then intersperse a 3-step direct mail sequence. First one gives away content. Second one, pitches a little bit, gives away content. And the third one just kind of dives in, gives the pitch. Yep. And so, and this is sent out over the span of 30 days. Okay. And so that's something that's been working well for my real estate client is, instead of just coming in saying, hey, thanks for signing up. Here's my product, or here, sign up for a strategy session with me. It kind of warms people up, gets them to connect. And now the very important thing about this is that really helps us to think about, when going through this email sequence, is to think about what objections that your prospect has in their mind that would keep them from buying. Mm-hmm. So in this sequence, like one big objection to investing in real estate is, oh gosh, real estate's expensive. It's such a pain in the butt, and I can't sell it, and that sort of thing. And so each of these content pieces, they're not just like, teaching content for the sake of content. They're kind of leading up to, like, kind of like shattering objections and belief systems that the prospect has. One of these pieces is talk about how real estate is a better, real estate versus like stocks and other investments. How real estate is, depending on the market, it's a little more stable than stocks and bonds, or stocks that go up and down, that sort of thing. So So this is
makes sense.
So this is. So this has been working well for one of my real estate clients, and I thought hopefully this is helpful.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, if you were going over this with an e-commerce, business owner selling like let's just say a supplement online, how do you feel like they can adopt this specifically to their business? Like, what are some tips for them?
Yeah, so the first part is, obviously, first email, you kind of, tell your story, talk about you a little bit. And then in the content pieces, what you can do is, maybe talk about how, for example, talk about how your supplement is like an ingredient of your supplement, for example. Like pick out one ingredient of your supplement and then kind of talk about how it's effective at getting them to lose weight, or something like that. That way you're kind of educating them a little bit. And it kind of also knocks down an objection in their head. They're like, because they're going into this, they're like, okay, I bought so many supplements on how to lose weight, right? How is this different for me? And then boom, second email, there's an email that talks about how, whatever the certain ingredient is, has been proven to help people lose weight and suppress appetite. This is just a hypothetical example, but, and so then obviously the transformation stories, you still will, you'd have the case studies throughout. If you're on a podcast, any other authority bill, like if you've written a book or if you've done a podcast before, you can still do that. Also, the biggest thing is just education, like giving away content, educating them about. Now, important, you don't want to talk directly about the supplement, but talk about the ingredients and talk about, how it works differently to get results in the prospect without actually talking about it. Right.
Yeah.
That way that but when you get to like 10th or 11th or 12th email, they're like, oh, okay, I'm already sold on it, or I kind of get it. And so the webinar is 10th or 11th email. That's when we usually have some kind of a webinar. And so the webinar can be something like 5 ways to lose weight fast, or something like that, and kind of give like general weight loss tips, and then at the end say, okay, well, you can either take what you have here, what I've presented to you, or you can take the supplement and then get better results. So the webinar isn't about how X supplement is going to help you lose weight and get a slim belly and that sort of thing. It's more like just kind of like it's content basically. So So
because people don't want to be sold to. I mean, I think it's what you're getting at. They don't want to be sold to. You have to do it very tactfully, and you want to provide value in advance, and you want to really position your brand and position your brand as a valuable, helpful authority in the content you're providing, obviously. And plus, you want people to go to the step that you're suggesting. So in this case, with the webinar, you're not saying it's going to be about your product, because then nobody's going to show up. Nobody wants to show up for like a product pitch, but they do want to show up for, if your market's weight loss, like in this example, they do want to show up for, follow these 5 simple tips to, lose 15 pounds in the next 30 days, something like that, as the hook, right? And then you provide that value. And then of course you then make an offer at the end after they've seen all that value from you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that, because a lot of e-commerce businesses too, they just pitch left and right. And they don't really, they don't really respect the customer value journey, the journey from prospect to lead to customer. And you have to do these things that, we're talking about in order to get the conversion there of the prospect to lead and then lead to customer. You really have to have like a value packed, journey that you're taking people through.
Right. Exactly. And, it's kind of like always when I tell people, I explain this to people, I like I said before, it's like a relationship, right? You don't, go on a date with a woman and then ask her to marry you on the first date. Well, the way a lot of people have been doing it is, okay, they'll put in 3 or 4 emails on that has the, kind of tells their story and, the typical 3 to 4 email indoctrination sequence. Well, that's kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, go out 3 or 4 dates, get to know them better. That's like, boom, ask them to marry you. It's kind of fast, right? And you'll get some people who, they will, but most people won't. And so that's why this kind of framework is something that'll help nurture the relationship and also lead to sale. So
yeah, for sure, I agree. So another thing too that I know you wanted to talk about is you wanted to share what e-commerce businesses like need to do to get their customers to believe in the product that they're selling, so this way they turn over into buyers. Can you maybe talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I sat down before I came on, I was like, what's the one big copywriting tip that I can give people that they can implement and, get a bunch of sales. And so this is the one thing, every single piece that I sit down, like if it's a long form letter or anything that's like, standalone, is I ask the question, what does your customer need to believe in order to get them in order for them to buy from you? Mm-hmm. And so what I do is I ask myself that question and I make a list of, of what they need to believe. Right. So for example, for the weight loss thing, our hypothetical weight loss product, it's like, well, they need to believe that, that the ingredients in this pill is going to help them lose weight. They need to believe that, this is the one pill, the one thing that is going to really do it for them. Because, never had taken a weight loss pill, but I imagine these people, they've taken so many supplements. They've tried so many diets, right? Their big thing in their mind is like, well, why is this different? Why is this different than the other stuff I've taken? Yep. And then when you ask that question, and I do this every time, I ask the question and I write down or on a, notebook or notepad or whatever. And that's basically the outline of my pitch is I just go through and knock out the objections. And for every single point, I pretend that I'm a lawyer trying to make a case in front of a judge, that I'm trying to prove, I have to prove to them that my customer, that this will work for them, basically. Yep. And so, and that's something that I learned when I was working for Agora Financial was, that was just a simple framework. It's like, just list what, what's keeping them from buying from you, and then just answering that objection, and then that's your sales pitch. So that's something that I think anybody on any of your audience can do. Something that's simple, then that can lead to a greater, more sales and a better conversion rates that a lot of people probably don't really have in mind. Like they may subconsciously do it, but to actually go through the exercise, they'll come up with some other like angles, that sort of thing they may not have thought about before.
Yeah. And it's such an important exercise to go through though, because it really causes you to think about the audience and think about what their concerns are, what their questions are, what their objections are, and to really sit down, write those down, obviously, and then address them one by one, and then make sure it carries over into your messaging, whether it's your emails, whether it's your sales pages, you name it. But this way you're, like you said, you're really addressing, what those common concerns and objections are to get the prospect to buy your product. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing you can do in your messaging, your copy, to be able to get someone to become a customer.
Right. And a lot of those they're going to be like, not just beliefs in the product, like, hey, is this going to work for me? It's also like emotional beliefs, like what's holding them back emotionally. So one of the things that I do for Christian is, obviously we have tools that are going to help them create a really good coaching business, but we have to go through a lot of knock down a lot of emotional beliefs that people have about coaching, such as, is coaching really a thing, right? Do I have to have business experience to become a coach? Am I good enough to be a coach? Like a lot of mental stuff. And so that's when we say, well, am I good enough to be a coach? That's like a huge thing that we have to overcome. And so we have like tons of case studies and results that people have given us that said, hey, I know, I didn't think never thought I'd become a coach. I didn't really know how to do this, but I followed the steps and boom, now I'm making, 10 grand a month or something like that. Yeah. So it's not just like beliefs about the product or, is this going to work for me? It's just a lot of like emotional beliefs that you have to kind of
right. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, cool. Well, let's transition into the bonus round here. So this is the last part of the interview, and I want to be, respectful of your time. Cool. So this is kind of a fun little bonus round. Basically, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I just want you to answer these questions with one word each. That's the challenge. So that's it. Are you ready to dive in here?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, cool. Awesome. What caused your biggest success to date in e-commerce?
I would say persistence. Because there's something that everybody of all of your audience kind of has to understand, is that not everything is going to work the first time. As a copywriter, I've been doing this for 13 years, for a very long time, but I've written duds before. Every copywriter has. Even Dan Kennedy told me that. He's like, yeah, I've written some duds. Not everything's going to work. But from those campaigns that don't work, or from the that you have to see as a learning experience, right? Okay, well, this didn't work. I'm going to try this one here. Or let's say that you run a campaign and you didn't really make any money. You kind of broke even. Well, celebrate you broke even, right? And then kind of build upon that. So, so I'd say persistence. That's the biggest thing. So. Okay.
No, that's great. What advice do you have for other e-commerce business owners?
I think the biggest thing is, it kind of leads into the previous one, is patience. Okay. I know that, anybody, when I first started as a copywriter, I thought that, I was just going to hit home runs, and I've launched my own products as well, and, spoken on stage, and, I was expecting like, every time I get on stage, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to get a bunch of sales. Now I've done that, but I've also, didn't really do well a couple of times as well. And everybody has. But part of it is like, it's not going to happen. At least for me, it didn't happen like right away. I had to, you have to be very patient when it comes to, creating the right ad, creating the right promotion that's going to sell your product. So that's the biggest thing. Because I think a lot of, I believe that most humans, most people in society, it's like they'll try something and then it's like, oh, it didn't work. It's like, okay, I'm not trying anymore. I failed. That's it. But
you gotta stick with it.
Yeah, you gotta stick with it. So yeah, patience.
Yeah. Totally agree. How would you describe yourself?
I would say grateful. I never thought that I'd be doing this like 15 years ago. I didn't even know what a copywriter was 15 years ago. And to think that, I'm doing this now, I'm working for cool people, I'm working from home. It's pretty cool. And every morning I wake up, I'm like, walk my 10 feet from my bedroom to our bedroom to the office. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Right. And, so yeah, I'm very grateful for, the path that I've taken, and I'm looking forward to the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, this leads to my next question. What do you see in your future?
That's a good one. I think impact. I really enjoy teaching copywriting. I really enjoy teaching. I have a couple of private clients that hire me to coach them on copywriting. I really enjoy teaching it. And so I see myself right now, I'm working on several programs that kind of allow people to kind of tap into my brain, so to speak, and to become better copywriters, better marketers, better, so that way they can sit down, they can write something, and they're not staring at a blank screen. They're like, okay, I know what to write, because Kevin provided me the template. And so, awesome. Yeah, exactly. And so right now it's like I love the clients I work for, and I love what I do, and I love teaching it, but I kind of want to, create bigger impact and teach other people what I do. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like a no-brainer. Yeah. How can someone, after they watch this interview and they get all of the value from you, how can they follow up and get to know you, follow you, maybe even hire you in the future, or even purchase like one of your products in the future? Like, how can someone do that?
Yeah. So right now, you just go to my website. It's kevinhillcopy.com. I need to update it. I've just been so busy. I haven't even had a chance to update it. But the best thing to do to directly contact me is just email me at kevin@kevinhillcopy.com to get in contact with me. I am accepting private clients, and if you need help with copy, so I can help you with that. I also do private coaching. I have several coaching programs. If you're either a copywriter, you want to get better at writing copy, or you're a business owner and you're tired of like hiring copywriters to do your own stuff, and you just want to be able to knock out like a really good sales page on the fly, write better copy. I do that as well. And recently I've been asked to speak at companies to come in and train their copywriters on how to write better copy. Either they're not getting the results they want, or kind of train them up a little bit so they can start producing. So
that's awesome.
I could do that as well.
Yeah, well, great. So if someone wants, just coaching help, or they want you to come in as a trainer, or they just want to hire you to do copy, sounds like you have options. Yeah,
a lot of options. Okay. And we could definitely work it out. So
okay, sounds good. All right, guys. So go ahead and reach out to Kevin at kevinhillcopy.com. Send him an email. Hurry if you are interested in getting his help on any of those levels, because Kevin is a very much in-demand copywriter. I mean, he's worked with some of the best of the business, and he is one of the best in the business. That's why he has been in the industry for so long and has worked with the names that he's worked with. So reach out to Kevin right away. Find out more about how he can help you with your business and with your copywriting. So this way you can take your copywriting to the next level. Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Josh. It's great to be here, and hope everybody got a lot out of this presentation, and go off and create your own awesome marketing materials. So
nice. Awesome. Good to see you, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh. Take care.
Thank you for tuning into the e-commerce performance marketing show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment with a timestamp of your favorite part, and share it with a friend. Until our next episode, here's to you and the success of your e-commerce business.